Hey there, how you doing? Charlie Winters here with horse racing and football selections for Saturday, the 27th of December. So, quick recap on the horses. We had a couple that ran well. Tapley ran an absolute cracker, anywhere from 18s to 25s. As I think your name's John O'Brien, I didn't look, or John Bryan. Sorry if I got your name wrong. So yeah, you were right. I actually thought the horse was folding, and I thought, please hang on for a place. And then it I think he kind of put the whip down, just rode it out to line, and the horse took off again. Fast finish in second. Yeah, it ran well. Um, on the win bets, I think we had two winners, a second, and an absolute no way, which was something like Manila Place or Manila Dandy, something like that. So there were a few winners, there were a few placed horses, but nowhere near enough to anywhere close make profit. So that was unfortunate. So it's going to be a bit tricky today on Saturday because I've gone through virtually every single race, and which I don't normally do. I normally look for the extra place races, and I think I've found some interesting horses. The problem is, I've got to have a really good day to have a really good day. There needs to be a big stroke of luck. So I picked quite a lot of horses, put them in different bets, and you're going to see it very shortly. So the football result was, unfortunately, the goals bit where we wanted plenty of goals didn't happen. The first match let us down, but the rest of the matches, there was quite a few goals in there. Well, the other two matches, there were quite a few goals in there. But the win treble came up. I can't remember off the top of my head how much it made, but today's football selections are in the description, or will be in the description, depending on when you look at this video. The football selections will be in there for 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. It's currently just after 9:30. Like I said, there was a win treble that came up. It was Coventry, Bolton, and Cardiff that won. All three won. So let me get into today's horse racing selections. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to read you through them as they are. So I'm going to click on them and then add them to bet slip because it's so much easier for you to read them that way. So what I've gone for in this bet, this was the last bet I put on. I do fancy some really big prices today. And just to let you know, Dom of Mary is my nap of the day each way. Doesn't mean I'm very confident of it winning at a big price. I just think it can run well at a big price in what is a competitive Coral Welsh Grand National handicap. I do think, well, you'll see from my selections throughout, I do think there are a number with chances. I do think this would have been the ideal day to have a Sky Bet account because they're probably paying first 7 in this. Well, I've got first 5 with Bet365. So these are 33 pence each way, doubles. So what I've gone for is, there's two races. It's the Coral Welsh Grand National, and also I've had, I think it's also the 6:30 at Wolverhampton. So these are the three selections in the Coral. I'm not going to keep saying that, in Welsh Grand National. So it's in the 250 at Chepstow. I've gone for Beaufort Scale, Dom of Mary, and Where It All Began. Where It All Began ran an absolute cracker in this race either last year or the year before. When it came there, it looked as though literally it had joined in with 4 to jump. But I think it jumped 4 out and sprawled on landing, and it either pulled up or just came tailed off in the end with only 4 to jump. It literally jumped. I think that was the commentator's thing where he said, and look at Where It All Began, it's just joined in. Yeah, it joined in, jumped the next fence, and then it came down, and that was game over. I just think Gordon Elliott's got 2 huge prizes in this, and I think they both got a chance. So Beaufort Scale and Where It All Began are both Gordon Elliott's big prizes. They both definitely got chances. Beaufort Scale's been running over between 2 and 2.5 mile. That was, I think, at the beginning of this year or back end of last year. Well, now it's been stepped up in trip. The first run was only okay over 3 mile, but then it ran over 3 mile 6.5 furlong and came something like, I think it was something like 7th of 22. Well, you can all get lost in them fields and just have a school round. So I think it did have, it did run a good race. So that was Beaufort Scale I was on about just then. Dom of Mary, it's come from the David Bridgewater stable. It's a very small stable, but obviously David Bridgewater was a decent jockey. I think he knows how to train a horse. He just hasn't quite got the ammunition. But this Dom of Mary, I think it's just going to improve under James Owen. James Owen just seems like a massive conveyor belt, as in like churning these decent winners day after day. And you'll see why I've also followed it. James Owen a little bit further down later on. So Dom of Mary is my kind of nap each way of the day. Don't get stuck into it because it's a very tricky race. And then what I've done, I've doubled them up. I haven't backed these single, by the way, because I've had some of them in different bets. So I've had them double in each way doubles with 3 horses in the 6:30 at Wolverhampton. Boubian, Enthused, and Colsai. These horses are scarily handicapped. Colsai has done absolutely nothing for quite a while now. It came from Hong Kong, but before that, it was rated. It ran to a Racing Post rating of 108. Did Colsai for Roger Varian? I think I don't know about 3 years ago. Gone a bit off the boil since, but it's generally had headgear on or some kind of headgear. Well, the first 2 runs for Richard Hughes, it wore absolutely nothing and didn't pass a single horse. I believe its cheap pieces are on now. I think it could run a much better race, but it could be scarily well handicapped. It's drawn wide, that's a problem, so we're asking an awful lot. I just think 40-1 paying first 4 is a bit too big. Because the funny thing is, I've gone for Colsai and I also thought Silver Samurai had a chance. But those two horses, the trainers of those horses have both got more fancied horses. So, it's just tricky. But Boubian is my Mick Appleby. So, obviously, champion trainer for about 104 years now on the all-weather. Boubian, when it was trained by Andrew Baldwin, it was only Holly Doyle that rode it on all its 3 runs that I saw. I think it was on the all-weather. And she won on it. So then it's been... Holly Doyle doesn't ride very often for Mick Appleby. So does she get on very well with the horse, or... I don't know. But, clearly she does. But it's not done a great deal since. But it did run well 3 outings ago and from the front. And then it missed the break. And then it ran no race at Newcastle. So if it can run to the same level of the 3rd run back, it could, and I say could, have an each way. But what I'm thinking is, if we can get 1 out of each bet into the placings, it's an okay return. So let me just get rid of those. So that's the first bet. So that's the most confusing one. Well, they're probably all confusing. So the next one is, so this is my shorter price each way. I've gone from each way. Oh, come on. Right. These are potentially very well handicapped horses and also a horse that's been overlooked. So this isn't a handicap, the first one, but what the bet is a 50p each way painter. Let me just double check. Yeah, 50p each way patent and £1 each way treble. So I've gone for Tennessee Tango in the 12 o'clock at Chepstow. This ran in a hot race last time. The first 2 looked to be very decent. This horse came off a wind operation that day, but it stuck with them for a very long way. And I think this race isn't as strong as it looks. And I think Tennessee Tango, I think it's the Joe Tizard yard. At Chepstow, I think it'll be hard to beat. It'll probably be prominent throughout, but I just think it could gallop right through to the line. And I think, although the ground's not terrible, I think it's only like good to soft. But Chepstow's a very tough course anyway. When they turn in, you can get a horse that travels well and find absolutely nothing. But I just think this horse will run right to the line, and it should, at minimum, finish in the places. The next selection is an interesting one. It's Miss Cynthia at 7-2 in the 120 at Kempton. So you might, for long-term subscribers, which I don't know if there is any anymore, I don't know. But Miss Cynthia was very interesting when I saw it because it came off the flat and it ran right up to 2.5 mile at Longchamp. So what I've always said was, whatever you run over on the flat, you will want further over hurdles. Well, it was campaigned to start off with at Fakenham. I think it opened up at a favourite, and I won't say it was a hot pot, but it was fancied. And what I said to the subscribers that day, I don't know if I picked the winner, but I just said Miss Cynthia will be vulnerable. I think she got odds on that day, and she got tapped for toe in the end because these horses that run over like 2.5 mile or 2 mile, when they go to 2 mile over hurdles at Fakenham, a lot of time they want a more galloping track and a pace to aim at. Sometimes it can turn into a 3 furlong sprint. So Miss Cynthia, it's now switched stables from Lucy Wadham to Dan Skelton. However, it goes against slightly what I normally like because it's had a wind operation and it hasn't had a run since. However, one of the good things is the wind operation was in September. Literally, I think Dan Skelton had the horse on the 10th of September. On the 13th, it had the wind operation. So it was straight in there. They must have seen something possibly straight away. Give it a wind operation. But this horse is a very talented horse. So I think what they might do with this horse is it's now up to 3 mile, which, don't get me wrong, it did do for a little bit for Lucy Wadham, but I just think maybe was the wind operation, was its wind causing a few problems. So I think you might see this horse held up towards the rear. I think they might do the typical Dan Skelton, Harry Skelton, where it just tanks along in last place. Will that suit it? I don't know, but at 7-2, you could be seeing a ridiculously well handicapped horse. And I just think it's got a chance. It could win with its head in its chest. Honestly, I think Lucy Wadham's a decent trainer, but she's not Dan Skelton. There's knocking winners left, right, and centre, and also they're getting very, very good horses now. Well, this horse is very talented. So yeah, Miss Cynthia in the 120 at Kempton. The next section, I've been rabbiting on that long. I forgot a little bit about it now. Let me have a quick look. Just give me 1 second. 12:25. I'll only need to see the horse slightly. Whew. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah. So Little Wren has done absolutely nothing. It's rated something about 70, I think it is. So it's been running over 2 mile over tracks that are quite quick. It's now, I think it's up to something like 2.5, 3 mile now. And I just think it's done the kind of Sir Mark Prescott angle, running over inadequate trips and stepped up on. It's not his handicap debut; it's his second one, but it was over 2.5 mile last time, and I'm sure it's 3 mile. And I just think Little Wren could also be a very well handicapped horse. So that is a 50p each way painting and £1 each way accumulator. I need to dab in because it won't be long until the first race. Right, there's some like bonkers selections in these. It's like, I don't mean stupid, I mean huge prices. Yeah. Anyway, it only makes 2.5 million. Right, so this Dom of Mary, so this is a 10p each way, lucky 63. But what I've also had, I do believe it's £1 each way on every single horse in this bet. These are big prices where obviously decide what your own staking is, but I think this one actually is 50p each way singles, but it is actually a 10p each way, look at 63. So Dom of Mary, which is an each way nap of the day, it's got a strong chance, but it's a really strong race. That's in the 250 at Cheltenham. In Chepstow. The next selection is interesting because Gary Moore has got the second favourite in this, but I do like the look of this horse. It's called Tetsworth at 18-1 and 12.45 at Kempton. The owners of this horse, they tend to have some hurdlers and flat horses with Gary Moore, or Gary and Josh Moore. But what you'll find is with this horse with this horse, it came off the flat, and I just think that I forgot what to say now. Sorry, they had a horse called Rialco, which was also a half decent hurdler. And I just think that this horse has done nothing wrong on the flat. It's been messed around with, to be fair, because it's been held up. It made its debut over 1 mile, I think 3.5 furlong or 3 furlong at Southwell. Then it went back to a mile 2 runs later. Then it went to Redcar where it led over a mile. Then it went where it were held up again. I just think that the beginning to trying to understand the horse, but I do believe it's got more talent than that. But I also think, because I think these are quite big owners for the Gary and Josh Moore. It's something like somebody in Jane Mould, I think it's called, or Mould. And I looked at the horses, and they've got some okay horses, not world beaters, but okay horses. I just think Tetsworth might have been overlooked a little bit too much because they've got a more fancied selection, which is the second favourite. And there's one trained by, I think it's Mickey Bowen, and that's the third favourite, which is a relatively short price. But I think if any of them first three don't run up to scratch. I think Tetsworth could run a place, and I think 18-1 is far too big. The next selection is Van Crowlock at 10-1 in the 4 o'clock at Wolverhampton. Basically, it was running well, then he upped it to a mile at Southwell, but held it up. I don't think it stayed that day, and I think if you've got a horse that doesn't stay and holding it up, you're not going to get the trip at Southwell, because I think you'll travel well for a very long time, and then when you're supposed to be making your progress with 2 to go, the tank's emptying. So I think at Van Crowlock, now it's dropped back in distance at Wolverhampton. Hey, it's just, what I've said, it's just gone to 9s from 10s. I just think it's got a better chance today. Right. So this one is interesting. It's Nekazari in the 5:30 at Wolves. So what this horse is, it came from Godolphin. It's not picked up a single leg at all. It's rated 50 something, and it's from Godolphin. It was heavily backed into 2-1 favourite on its debut, and it didn't run very well. It weakened very quickly. I think they've got the cheap pieces on it today, or tongue strap and cheap pieces. So I think Billy Loughlin rides again. He's clearly said something to the trainer, George Bowie, like, you need some blinkers on this because it's not paying attention, or something like that. I just think it could run a better race. It is a bit of a trappy race, that one, but I just think the stable's too powerful to have an 8-1 with a former Godolphin well-bred horse that's only had, I think it's had about half a dozen runs. This horse is extremely interesting. This is one of the more interesting ones, Empirical, in the 6 o'clock at Wolverhampton. This horse, it was a really short price. It was the only horse that was being backed to take on the favourite. The favourite, I forgot its name now, it is trained by, I think it's Charlie Appleby. And it did a Racing Post rated of 90 at Southwell. This horse was extremely slowly away, Empirical, and never had a chance whatsoever. I can remember backing a horse probably about 10 years ago. It won at 66-1, and it was something like 3-1 for David Ellsworth on its debut, and it literally pulled up. I'm thinking, well, there's a reason why it was 3-1 on that day. It didn't run its race, and then it won at 66-1. Just that was quite. That must have been 10 years ago. But yeah, Empirical has got the same kind of. It was backed as though it only had the favourite to be. It had never ran before, but unfortunately, it were very slowly away at Southwell, which sometimes you don't always want that anyway. I know the kickback isn't like it used to be, but there's still. I think it's still one that's not ideal for kickback. So yeah, Empirical. I think it's dangerous 20-1 because it's a poor race as well. So what I've done in this race, this bet, I think it's where I've had 50p each way on all of these. So Enthused is the final selection at 50-1. You'll notice I've also added in the other bet, the each way doubles bet. So Enthused, it has got a little bit of form over this distance. I think it's a mile today, but this horse has been over 1 mile 3, 1 mile 4, 1 mile 6, 2 mile over hurdles, 7 furlong, a mile. And I just think James Owen had a winner or a placed horse at a big price not too long ago, and that horse, it had been overlooked because I think it was, let's just say it was a mile race, but it had been running over 1 mile 4 for another trainer, I think it was. And I think in the Racing Post it's something like unproven at this trip, maybe worth keeping an eye on, or unproven at this trip, you'll see better when stepped up in distance. And it won quite comfortably, and I think it was at least something like 20 or 25s. I just think Enthused could be an interesting selection. 50-1 would be a nice, probably, I think it's a curtain. Yeah, I think it's a final race. So if we're waiting for this Enthused at 50-1, could be very exciting. So yeah, Enthused at 50-1 in the 6:30 at Wolverhampton. So there's not many left now. So let me just, sorry for rabbiting on. So this is my. So this bet here is also it's horses that I fancy at reasonable prices. So as you can see, I've gone for Dom of Mary again. The bet is these are £1 each way singles and 20p each way lucky 15. So what we're looking for really is we want these horses realistically just I'm on about throughout the day. They're not all going to win, but we want that as many as we can. Just keep sneaking into the frame, and will have a very good return. It's just fingers crossed, isn't it, obviously. So the first selection is Zambezi Fix in the 15-2 at 12:30 at Chepstow. This is normally ridden by an amateur, apprentice, sorry. And it's got Gavin Sheehan on today. And I like this horse because it's an absolute Chepstow specialist. It's run 2 races recently, not great races, but I think it was because it was away from Chepstow. It was Utoxeter, and then I can't remember what the other track was, but it was described as a sharp Newton Abbott. That's it. So it was a sharp left-handed track, complete opposite today. So I think it's been lined up, and it always seems to run. I think for the last 4 or 5 years, it's always ran on the day after Boxing Day, Welsh Grand National Day. So yeah, but normally it runs over chase fences on this day, but they've gone the hurdle route for some reason today. So whether they've gone for a weaker race for today, I don't know. But 7-1, as you can see, I think it's just moved from 15-2. Another one that's shortened when I'm talking. Dom of Mary, 14-1, 250 Chepstow, obvious chance. I think this horse is just going to go from strength to strength. The next selection, I think I've mentioned already, Von Krolok, 9-1, Wolverhampton, 4 o'clock at Wolverhampton. I don't think it stayed last time, and I think it's got a much better chance than the 9-1. And Bad Habits, right, I forgot about this now, Bad Habits. I know that James Sullivan's on it. I think it's trained by a Ruth Carr. Dangerous handicap mark. It's well below what its rating for when it ran for George Bowie. This horse is drawn 4. I don't know where I'm pulling all this information from. This horse is drawn 4. And I just think it won't be too far away. I think it's good enough to win. And it's 15-2. So this bet is a 20 pence each way, lucky 15, and £1 each way on each selection. So, as I said, I apologise if you've watched all this, because it's over 20 minutes now. The football bets will be in the description. So I wish you the very best of luck. Charlie Winters. Oh, keep stakes small. Let's not go crazy. I've put quite a bit. I think I put £47, I think it is. So it's well spread out. We should get something back. Let's just hope it's at least double what we put on. So I wish you the very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.